Hey, I've been doing a lot of studying on Ruth and Boaz. And really because I'm, as a Christian woman, single, I a lot of times hear people say, God is working on your Boaz. God is going to send you a Boaz. Or I've had prayers, women pray, God, please send her Boaz. And while I definitely would love a Boaz, I curious to know, and in my curiosity, understanding the development of Boaz and Ruth. And so I read Ruth for like the 50th time, this time with new eyes. And I realize, and I want you to also realize as women, that God didn't send Boaz to Ruth. God positioned Ruth in Boaz's environment because Boaz was the man. And he had to have certain things in place. And she needed to be at a certain place in her life. Because remember, she was a Moabite. So she wasn't a woman of God. She had to accept God, right? And she had to go with her mother-in-law to her mother-in-law's home. But nobody ever talks about God, please prepare her as you did Ruth for the Boaz. So I started really reading and trying to dig deep into the development of this union between Boaz and Ruth. And I noticed some things that we don't talk about very often in this story. And we don't talk about Ruth being a widow. And we don't really talk about the fact that Ruth worked. Continuing on with Ruth and Boaz, we know that Boaz took notice of her and instructs his team, his servants, his workers, to his employees to not harm her, allow her to do what she's doing because he knew she was doing it for the sake of Naomi. But then it gets interesting because Naomi, being a woman of wisdom, realized that Boaz was being extremely kind to Ruth. And because of her faith and her belief in God, she says to Ruth, go and do these things. And we'll talk about those things that she did in the next video. But I want you to go ahead and go and read the book of Ruth in preparation for our conversation tomorrow or the next video.